Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be splitting my time with the member from Skeena-Buckley Valley. Mr. Speaker, according to the CIBC's most recent economics flash, Canadian GDP is abysmal. The bank expected a modest acceleration in GDP growth to 1% in the final quarter of the year, but the lack of momentum towards the end of the quarter suggests that not even this anemic goal will be met. This kind of thing has become a standard economic warning bell in Canada these days, increasingly blaming the economic malaise in Canada not on sector-specific tariffs by the Americans, but on Canadian government policy. No wonder the Liberals want a Christmas election. They know they can't keep the bait and switch going on Canadians for very much longer. They want an election before the full weight of their disastrous policies comes crashing down. We Conservatives consistently try to explain to the Liberals that Canadians want and need jobs and an affordable life. We constantly try to explain that massive deficits, high taxation, onerous regulation, and irresponsible spending is at the root of our economic problems, not Donald Trump. Incredibly, the Liberal response is to boast about government handouts and more bureaucracy. They seem to think that it's quite acceptable to tax and regulate us all into poverty as long as they dribble a little back to some of us. They have the gall to ignore pleas for jobs and answer with boasts about better handouts. And they apparently can't see the logic of self-sufficiency. This budget is part of a problem, a Liberal belief that more government, more regulation, and more free programs somehow equal prosperity. But, Mr. Speaker, there is nothing free about any of this. Every free thing the government offers has a cost behind it, and every cost has a tax behind it. And every new layer of bureaucracy not only costs more, but squeezes the very people who create value in this country. The Liberals talk about affordability while quietly making everything Canadians buy, build, or grow more expensive. They call that compassion. I call it economic vandalism. And now Liberal MPs are publicly mocking the very idea that parents want to be able to afford to feed their own kids rather than accept free handouts from the government. Where's the logic, one asked last week. Seriously, Mr. Speaker, where's the logic in wanting to be able to feed your own kids? Where's the logic in wanting to stand proudly self-sufficient instead of relying on Liberal handouts? What's next, soup lines for parents? This doesn't sound like a vision for the strongest economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker. It sounds dystopian. It sounds like breadcrumbs for the masses while the Prime Minister's rich friends belly up to the Canadian tax trough. There seems to be a real disconnect between the Liberals and Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Hardworking Canadians want jobs and a thriving economy so that they can look after their families, support their communities, and help those who truly need it, like seniors on fixed incomes or single parents working 2 jobs just to stay afloat. I believe Canadians want government to keep the country safe from outside threats, to build conditions for prosperity at home, to keep the streets safe, and to make sure Canadians can walk downtown without fear of harassment. Hardworking Canadians don't mind paying taxes for those things, Mr. Speaker. What they do mind paying for is massive, wasteful bureaucracies built around vote-buying handouts. What they do mind paying for is overregulation that feeds bureaucrats more than it helps Canadians. Let's look at what's actually happening on the ground. According to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, small firms are suffocating under the cost of Liberal policy. CFIB's most recent research shows that business operating costs are up 26% since 2017. Fuel, energy, insurance, shipping, everything is more expensive. 2/3 of small business owners say rising costs are their top concern. And, Mr. Speaker, when the people who provide 60% of private sector jobs in this country can't afford to stay open, that's not just a business problem, it's a national problem. CFIB also reports that small firms spend about 735 hours a year just on regulatory compliance. That's 32 working days, a month and a half lost to red tape. And here's the kicker, Mr. Speaker. CFIB estimates that $18 billion of that red tape could vanish tomorrow and no one would even notice. $18 billion. That's enough to pay for safer streets, stronger border enforcement, or better health care infrastructure. Unless, of course, it disappears into Bermuda. Now, into this environment of record costs, ballooning debt, and economic uncertainty, the government brings forth the behemoth of budgets, a budget that makes even Justin Trudeau look like a miser. The new federal budget represents a direct hit on the affordability of life for Canadians. Despite promises of restraint and fiscal responsibility, the government's spending spree is fueling inflation and driving up prices across the board. Families already struggling to afford groceries, rent, and mortgage payments now face even greater pressure as inflationary spending adds $5,400 per household per year. By running a $78 billion, far above the $62 billion pledge, this government has made everyday essentials more expensive, leaving ordinary Canadians to shoulder the burden of its broken promises. In this budget, hidden food taxes like the industrial carbon tax still increase the cost of everything at every stage of production. The energy to grow and harvest and process and transport food is taxed at every step of the way. That means the price increases every step of the way until it reaches the ridiculous price we consumers are used to paying at the checkout stand, or trying to. While our neighbours to the south embark on aggressive tax restructuring to become competitive, the Liberals are dragging on our economy with hidden taxes and stifling red tape. While the Americans are rapidly reindustrializing, the Liberals are still chasing industries out of Canada with punitive taxation, onerous red tape, and accusations of greed whenever a company does manage to succeed in this hostile environment. While the world is changing before our eyes and other countries are quickly adapting, this Liberal government seems to be stuck in 2015, leisurely taking half steps and clinging to old ideologies. This budget is just more evidence of the same thing. The Liberals and their friends, the NDP, blame high prices on corporate greed, but in reality, businesses are simply passing on government greed. When things cost more to make and transport, they cost more at the checkout stand. That is called inflation, Mr. Speaker, and it is caused in part by the industrial gas tax and other hidden taxes like it. And it's made worse by the explosion of expensive bureaucracy the Liberals have embarked on. Mr. Speaker, every time this government pats itself on the back for protecting workers but drives their employers out of business, it's not helping labour. It's in destroying jobs and futures and, in many cases, families. Mr. Speaker, Canadians don't want to be wards of the state. They want the dignity of earning their own way. Young people don't want low-wage rental economy. They want to own a home someday, like their parents, once they have good jobs and build an affordable life. They want to know if they work hard, they can afford to buy a home, start a business, and feed their families without waiting for a government check. Conservatives are offering a better path forward, an affordable budget for an affordable life. That means ending hidden taxes that quietly drain household budgets, cutting wasteful government spending, and removing the bureaucratic roadblocks that prevent homes from being built. By opening the country to opportunity and rewarding hard work, we can restore hope to families barely getting by. It is time to turn away from generational debt and toward common sense. So let me return to the question a Liberal MP mockingly asked last week. Where's the logic? Where's the logic in a government that taxes work, punishes success, and calls dependency progress? Where's the logic in driving businesses to the brink of insolvency and then bragging about new programs for the unemployed? Where's the logic in claiming to fight for the middle class while making it impossible for the middle class to even exist? Conservatives will continue to fight for real affordability, for policies that empower Canadians to feed their own kids, build their own businesses, and standing proudly self-sufficient in a country that rewards work and not dependency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, in the month of October, 67,000 jobs were created. 55,000 of those jobs were in the province of Ontario. We have a Prime Minister and a Liberal caucus that is focused on building Canada strong. On the other hand, we have the extreme conservative right. And quite frankly, I think Joe Clark said it best when he said he never left the party left him. Because today's Conservative Party is so far to the right that there is no room for progressive-minded individuals or red Conservatives today, Mr. Speaker. We don't see that. And I'm wondering if the member can provide his thoughts as to why it is that the Conservative Party has moved so far to the right to the detriment of good public policy.
Honourable Member for Vernon, Lake Country, Monaghan.
Mr. Speaker, I obviously reject the characterization of the member opposite. I would like to ask the member himself if he believes that it's logical for parents to have to rely on the state after they've been driven into bankruptcy by the policies of this government, whether it's logical for them to want to be wards of the state.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question to my honourable colleague, first off, I want to thank him for his service in the Canadian Armed Forces coming up on Remembrance Day. However, I have a huge concern over the amount of the annual deficits that this Liberal government's been running for the last 10 years. It's over 55 billion dollars, more money than the federal government transfers to the provinces for health care. And it's just putting this enormous stress on future generations. And does my honourable colleague share the same concerns?
Honourable Member for Vernon, Lake Country, Monaghan.
Thank you for the question. I once ran myself into credit card debt very badly, Mr. Speaker. And I found myself paying hundreds of dollars in interest every single month, and for no benefit. If I had not used that credit card, I would be able to put that money away in savings. It's not a good feeling to be simply throwing money out the door or giving it to bankers, especially if they're involved in other countries with our money. So I share my colleagues' deep concern over the deficit. We're never going to end this deficit if we don't smarten up and have logical budgets in the future. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The member for Winnipeg West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for, I'd like to thank the honourable member for his speech. In regards to the industrial carbon pricing and the claims of what this does to inflation, how does the honourable member respond to a study by the Bank of Canada that says that carbon pricing has contributed a maximum of 0.15% to the rate of inflation?
The Honourable Member for Vernon, Lake Country, Monaghan.
I can't speak to that report. I haven't read it. What I can tell the honourable member is you don't need an economics degree to understand that being taxed at every step along the line of food production is going to add cost to it. We can parse those numbers and we can look at them and mitigate them with other numbers. The fact still remains: when you tax the economy, food prices are going to go up. That just makes sense.
And comments? Questions et commentaires? L'honorable député de
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntington. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I don't know whether in my colleagues' province they're experiencing what we're experiencing in Quebec, that is, a crisis in our healthcare and social services because the population is growing and aging. In fact, British Columbia and Quebec are the two provinces with the fastest aging populations. And we're both being asked in our provinces to do more with less funding. So would the colleague agree that there should be more money transferred to provinces in order to deliver quality services which meet people's needs?
Member for Vernon, Lake Country, Monaghan, in about 25 seconds or less.
Yeah, I would certainly agree if we were delivering quality health care. We did a study not long ago, about 10 years ago, in which we found that the Interior Health Department, which is my region's health authority, had for every 6 workers on the front lines, they had a manager. The management burden on the top has to come down. I think we can do more with less. I do believe that we owe a responsibility